Welcome to Sisflix, the podcast where we won't judge you for talking through the movie. Sisflix are the movies you laugh at, yearn for, and overanalyze with your girls, significant others, and now us.
We are your hosts,
Paola
and Naja, two sisters and designers who discuss chick flicks we hate to love,
tropes we love to hate,
and all of the aesthetic choices in between. Join us as we break down our favorite movies together. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi to Jules.
Hi.
Hi to Deb.
Hi.
So anyone who's joining us for this conversation, welcome. This is a bonus component of Sisflix podcast for our coverage of My Lady Jane. We are here with Deb and with Jules, who run Save My Lady Jane account and campaign. So we're really, really excited to talk to them about what it is they love so much about the show, what we're trying to, hoping to achieve with Save My Lady Jane, bringing back the TV show, and just like a little bit about themselves and some other stuff that they like, other fandom that I'm positive we share and that we can chat about and discuss. So thank you both so much for joining us. Deb, you're joining us from Alabama. Jules, you're joining us from England. So thank you, both of you again. Paola and I, it's hard enough for both of us to get on mic and chat. And again, we live in the same time zone, 90 minutes away from each other. So, so we're very grateful to both of you for your time.
No, we're really, really pleased to be here, and thank you so much for inviting us. We're really excited to talk to you guys.
We love the opportunity to simp on our show. So
Absolutely.
That is very true. Any given opportunity.
So tell us a little bit about how you discovered My Lady Jane, right? Like whether it was the book or the TV show, how you kind of decided to create or add on to the movement to save the show. And I guess both of you, like how you guys know each other, whether you knew each other beforehand, how you both decided to become involved in the campaign to save the show.
Okay, so to go with how I found the show, it just appeared on my recommended when it came out. And it was like one of those things where, that looks like something I'd enjoy. Because, period drama, it's a given.
Who loves a castle? Who doesn't love a castle?
Who does not love a castle? Exactly. I have an English heritage membership. We go to castles. My kids love it. It's just it was bound to hit. And I sat down to watch it, and very quickly, and I realized that is not what I signed up for, but I very much was into it.
Same. Definitely can relate.
It's like, excuse me, what is happening here? But I loved it. And you get to kind of like episode 2, and it becomes your personality, and you get to the end of it and it really becomes your personality, and you go, okay, cool, let's start again. And I became one of those really weird people who would like go, okay, so who's the next friend that I'm going to make watch this and sit with them and observe their reactions?
Welcome to the club. That's what our whole show is about.
Literally, that's like a part of how we ended up with a podcast. Continue.
Yes. I mean, that's fantastic. Yes. I have at least 3 people that I sat with, and I was like, are you going to laugh at the right times? Or are you going to simp at the right times? Because this is how we're going to decide if we're going to stay friends.
Hello.
Yes.
If I can't obsess over how Guilford looked at Jane with you, like, did you catch that look? If we can't talk about that, then what are we doing here?
And what are we doing? Yes,
exactly. If you're not analyzing everything that is happening, what is the point?
I'm like, why is her dress this and this woman's dress is that? Like, if we're not doing that,
designer.
Yeah. I love we love a costume drama in our respective homes. Yes.
And those costumes are out of this world.
Oh,
they're so beautiful.
Amazing. They did an amazing job with the costumes.
Yeah. The person who did the costumes has sadly passed away, but she had cancer. But she was the designer of the iconic Tommy Shelby look from Peaky Blinders.
Yes.
Stephanie Colley, quite a legacy.
So good.
I'll tell you how I got interested in the show, and then we can go back to Jules so she can talk about like how we got involved. So I was like, had recently finished grad school and was kind of starting to be able to like watch things again for fun. And then I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I actually saw like a story on someone I followed on Instagram, some author, not an advertisement from Prime. That's a whole other story.
We have thoughts.
I watched the trailer. And I was interested, and the next day I started, and my best friend also started watching it. My best friend works from home, so she's able to consume a lot of media. And she was like, "Oh," and then we both got really into it. And so yeah, it was kind of a casual thing. I started watching it like maybe like the day after it came out, which was good because that's important, as we found out. But yeah, and then maybe 2 weeks after it came out, Jules was one of the people that I found on Twitter. I like used my Twitter for the first time in like 7 years so I could like talk to other fans and like connect with people.
Same.
Um, yeah, and then I found Jules, and then we started talking on Instagram, and then we realized that we had a lot of things in common, and it was like, oh, this is so great. Let's be friends. And then before we knew it, it was like the show is canceled. And then we were like, we were like every single day would be like for like a few weeks, we'd be like, okay, what social media has been posted today? And then like we would analyze, but like, is it going to come out? Is like this going to come out? Because they were doing all these things that were like really leading us on. And then it got canceled, and then Jules had stayed up too late that night and found out they got canceled late, and we were both just like real sad.
I was literally about to go to bed, and I'll never forget that night because it will go down in history as one of the worst nights of my life.
It's so sad. We were all so
it was like 11:30 when the news came out, and I was literally just about to go to bed. I was like, I'm getting tired now. I need to go. And then I saw this, and all thoughts of bed were gone.
The funny thing is, but like funny but not funny, is that people immediately were like, okay, we should like do something. People had already started a petition and then I just started talking to people. We like people out of Discord, and then all of a sudden they were like, hey Deb, here you are in this like chat. And I was like, oh, where's everyone else? There's like, well, you're in like the leadership chat. I was like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so
I was like, why am I in the leadership chat, y'all?
we started the Save My Lady Jane Instagram account that night when it was cancelled.
You were on it.
Yeah, we were on it. Then I made the website the next day. But I mean, that first night, that 79 signature petition got over 1,000, I think.
Wow.
So it skyrocketed from there. But yeah, by Monday, we were kind of organized and everything. And then I was talking to Deb, and I was like, you should come here. You should come along because you have ideas.
Yeah, well, I have ideas, and we got along really well.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting because, I mean, the fandom world is interesting because like there's a wide range of ages, and I could just like, I think Jules and I could tell that we are more serious about like the actual doing of things. Like gabbing about it is really important, like talking about it is really important, but like the actual like who's gonna like write the email templates and like who's gonna like do the admin stuff that is not like admittedly like always thrilling and who will be more able to like just hold down the fort in a more concrete way. So
yeah, I mean it quickly became almost like a second job. It was one of those things where I don't necessarily want to be sat at 10 o'clock at night posting stories on Instagram, but I'm gonna do it because it's my responsibility to do it. And it became, we committed to this thing. We committed to the long run, and we've made it part of our lives, and that's why we're here.
I love the transition from oh my god, my heart's broken to we fucking got to do something about this shit. And in less than 24 hours, you got an Instagram page, you have a website, you have the GoFundMe going, and it already has signatures. Yeah. That's amazing. That's outstanding. I applaud you guys because to be able to get organized that quickly, like you said, is so important. The organization part is the hardest part, and it's what gets people rallied around the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. Okay, well, here's a template. Here's, in making it easy for the rest of the fandom to find and also take action because you've already put in that work. So
yeah, that's very
kudos.
True. Thank you.
Kudos, absolutely.
It's hard work.
I would be, I have to mention like one of the reasons that I've always like I love the show immediately, but I got invested is because one of the two showrunners, Gemma Burgess, is, the best. And wait, like as soon as the show came out, like I took the risk of being like, I'm gonna send her a DM, just being like, the chemistry is great. I loved it. Just I love your show. And I was like, she's never gonna see this. And then she responded, like,
Hey.
really. And she's well known in the fandom for and for being really responsive to fans, and just being like very kind and generous. And then, so when the show was canceled, like I was like, gentle, but I was just like, how are you doing? Like that kind of stuff. And so it was just like for me, part of it, and same thing for Jules, is that we have always really loved Gemma, and we also love Meredith, our other showrunner, too, is also wonderful. It's just Gemma's more like on socials. And so it just seeing how much like she loved the show, and not, like showrunners of course love their show, but there's like the showrunners who make shows and the showrunners who are like, it is their heart.
Yeah.
And that was like really clear with us, that it was like not just like a job. There's not just like a show she made. It was just like super passionate. And so that really like helped, and seeing that like the rest of the people, all the people involved in the show, like really loved it. And we're like super, I think there's like a little article written about Edward Blumenau having like a breakdown of like all of his Instagram stories.
I mean,
I saw that.
He was having that breakdown, and we were having it with him. Like,
yeah, it was just like 45 Instagram stories of like some never before seen stuff, and then like a random story where he stops and just like records himself being like, about the hair, guys.
Which we thank him for. We spent like 3 weeks before that speculating about the hair, so we appreciate him for telling us what was going on.
He was involved in another show. He wasn't allowed to trim his hair. They had to do some reshoots. There was no magic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just seeing how much everyone who loved it. Oh, they also canceled it on the youngest cast member's 13th birthday.
That was brutal.
And yeah. And that was, just the worst, especially because like as after the cancellation, her parents who run her social media were just like, we don't care about the rules. Like, we're going to post pictures, we're going to post stuff, we're going to support you guys. And it was just, I think part of it was probably because they canceled on their daughter's birthday.
That's messed up. One of the things that actually made me more excited about the show is you can see, like you're saying, the rapport between the actors. One of our favorite things to say is like, we love it when actors are friends. Like, we love it when the cast are really friends and really enjoy what they're doing. I think it shows so much. And you can see that anytime you saw anything behind the scenes. And then when the news came out about the show being canceled, everybody rallied behind the show. Everybody was out there, it's, expressing how they feel, like you're saying. And I think that energizes the fandom even more. But personally speaking, seeing that, I'm like, wow, these people really love what they're involved in. Mm-hmm. And it gave me so much more respect for the show, and it made it even more heartbreaking as well. Yeah. I felt it even more.
And even so, I'm reluctant to talk about it with a tone of finality, just because we've seen shows be resurrected and like come back from the dead or whatever, right?
I think one of the reasons that made so many people so reluctant to just accept the fate and be like, okay, fine, it's been cancelled, let's go and find something else to watch, was the message that the show sends as a piece of media, is that, women can win. History doesn't have to be what it always has been. You can speak your mind, and you don't have to be cut down. There's obviously, Deb and I talk a lot about how consent is represented, how empowering women is so vital, and in what was happening in the world at that moment in time, that was just another like dagger in your back, where it already felt like people were being silenced, and it wasn't okay. And we didn't want to be silenced, which is why we're still banging on about it.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things that, like, as things have kind of progressed onwards, and you all may know this, and as Jules knows this, and like people from the industry have come forward and posted, Prime let them write the second season. So like the second season is written. And like I've seen multiple people post about being like, yeah, my friends were like talking about working in the art department or the costumes or etc. They would let them go into pre-production and then just were like, bye.
Rug
And it
pull.
was, which is, I think one of the reasons like I like to mention that is because like I've been told that's actually not that uncommon, but I don't think most people know that. Not just about My Lady Jane, but just in general, that like the industry is shit. Like, you know, it's like really hard on, I mean, actors get jobs, but like it's really hard on like the crew, and the people who work at all the hundreds of people who work in this who are like all thought they had a job, and not just like a short-term job, like a 7 to 8 month job. And then it was like, no, you no longer have a job. And that's just like really hard to fathom that, you know, we want people to keep making shows, but like if that keeps being how it works, then that seems untenable to me personally.
It starts making you question, like, do I want to support this streaming service if they're going to be doing this to shows that we love, to, you know, actors and creators that we love and respect? And especially if you're going to continue to project this message, like, yeah, you've made a show and you invested into a show created by women for women, empowering women, and then you're going to go cancel it. What are you saying? How do you feel about us as a demographic? And do you respect our viewing power? And that feels demoralizing. And then you're like, why am I going to support you as a service? And I think we've been having this conversation about Prime. We've been having this conversation about Netflix, you know.
And obviously this is something, I feel like this is a phenomenon that tends to affect, as Bala mentioned, shows pioneered and led by women, and shows kind of like geared towards women and like young adult audiences. Like anything that just feels slightly less male, slightly less white, and slightly younger is kind of deprioritized by every streaming platform. But I'd like to get both of your thoughts on that.
I was going to ask Jules if she wants to talk about the showrunner, the Amazon event that for women. What was that?
Yeah, that's
was it
painful.
too triggering?
I mean, before we go into Trailblazers, which is a sore topic, you know, we have worked with other renewal campaigns. We have collaborations with a lot of them, and one of the messages that, you know, we're not going to fix the model, chances are, but we want to be heard in that the model is broken, and you know, the streaming model as a whole is broken. Unless you watch something on the weekend that it comes out, it becomes a flop. So they want us to work to their timelines rather than respect their viewership's timelines. You know, if My Lady Jane had been released in autumn, My Lady Jane would have been a success. There's no question about it, because the people that would immediately be sat down to watch My Lady Jane, like, you know, the Me's and the Debs of the world, we have kids. And in summer, we don't have time to be sitting down and be watching television when they want us to, because we've got to deal with the little gremlins. I mean, we also had the fact that the Olympics were on, so our husbands wanted to be watching the television. And the Euros.
They released a British history television show during the Euros.
Well, and as Paola and I were discussing that as we were recording, you know, our recaps for episodes 1 through 4. First of all, this is like Bridgerton downturn of season 3. The Olympics are on. It's fresh summer. So you have people who are like college students, who I assume would be very drawn to this type of series, moving in and out of wherever it is that they're going to be for the summer. Nobody's like, you're having exams. If you're a student of any kind, you're like not in the mindset of like, I have a ton of free time to do this. Like May, June, everything is kind of in a state of flux at that point. And as you mentioned, for people who are parents, like the summer is coming. You need to take care of your kids. And
summer is coming.
Bob as a Game of Thrones girl. So but yeah,
that's the most painful sentence I've ever heard. Say that
again. But and even in that same breath, like where it's summertime, you're home with kids, it's also a show that it's not necessarily appropriate to have on around kids. You're not watching this while your kids are running around.
You can't.
So it's there's a lot.
The timing was rough. I would like Jules to mention the Trailblazers say before I was gonna, but I have something else to say about the timing. And after
you want to, we're on timing now.
Yeah,
timing is a very sore subject.
It almost
Well-
felt intentional, like you're setting it up to fail.
Oh,
Yes.
no, we see, that's the thing. That's like, that's been discussed, and like part of me agrees it was like intentional, but the only conclusion that I've been able to come to is they really wanted it to be all the people who love Bridgerton who were finished watching, and they wanted them to then watch this, which is why, I don't know if you guys know, the journalists who got to do screeners were not allowed to talk about the fantasy element at all.
That was going to be another thing that I was going to mention, because Paola watched the show before I did. She watched it and was like, oh, dude, you got to watch My Lady Jane. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's the one that it's kind of like a subversion on the story of Lady Jane Grey, right? Like, I know a little bit of history about that. Like, that would be cool to watch. And then she's like, oh, yeah, there's like shapeshifters in it. And I was like, what? Like, because not that was even like a deterrent, but it was not anywhere. I looked up trailers after that. I was like, Paola,
Nope.
I think you're bullshitting me.
Very specifically taken, like left out.
That is so wild.
It's because I think they wanted to be Bridgerton.
Which they're not, though.
Right.
So I understand. Yes, obviously you want the period romance watcher, right? That's a big fan base. But
Yeah.
don't ignore the fantasy lovers. I mean, think about everyone who's missing out on fantasy shows because they're getting canceled, who want to watch something that
Or
like My
that
Lady
they
Jane.
were delayed by the strikes, right? Like, how many shows the pre-production was delayed by strikes? No writing happened for several months. They weren't able to do any principal shooting for several months. So like, I feel like an entire slate of programming was shifted out like 6 months because of the strikes last year. And here you have a show that could kind of like marry aspects of all of these things, and you're taking half of it. That's like, this is clearly a very, very different thing, but that's like the new Mean Girls movie not being marketed as a musical.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
We talk about it as if it was like Outlander, but you didn't mention a time travel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
There's
okay.
and it brought a world of trouble, because you had people who had gone in expecting to watch Bridgerton or Pride and Prejudice or something like that, and then they got hit with a fantasy that they weren't expected, and then they'd switch it off and was like, well, that's not what I'm into, that I don't want that. So you were losing people because they didn't want to watch fantasy, because that's not what they're into, but then you were also losing people that would be eating that up, because I've heard of romance lovers not wanting to watch fantasy. I've not heard of many fantasy lovers who are not interested in the romance aspect.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
That's
they were
key in
missing
fantasy.
their biggest audience by not advertising it. And I understand that they wanted that element of surprise, but when it's costing you, is that worth it?
The marketing for this show was not there at all. And then to not market the show properly, not spread it out to broader audiences, right? Because you have a show that transcends genres. So just focusing on one single piece of a said genre when you have multiple genres going on at the same time. And then bringing it out at a time where viewership is low, period, overall.
And this is also coming out on the tail of maybe the most expansive, media saturating marketing campaign that we've seen in the last like 5 years for a TV show, which is Bridgerton. Like, that campaign was bananas.
I feel confident that their marketing budget for Bridgerton was bigger than the production budget
Than
for
My Lady Jane. Very fair.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't even think it was like the people who do the marketing really loved My Lady Jane. So it's not like, I just think it was a budget issue. Like, I think it was
a budget issue.
Given
Absolutely.
the
But
financial.
you're not investing in its marketing, and then you're not giving it its time to grow its audience. So you didn't market it for an appropriate amount of time, and then you didn't give it enough time to find its audience when it was
to do
out.
organic growth.
To do it exactly. So then what do you?
Yeah, what are you expecting?
I mean,
and
we say this, and it's not a dig at anybody, and it's not a flex on our part, but we've done more for marketing this show through the cancellation campaign than they did.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would absolutely agree with that.
We have a hardcore fan among us who is a TikTok editor, and her edits on TikTok, she's the My Lady Jane edit queen,
millions
like,
of views.
You can plug her handle if you want.
Meditorial SX. Her edits are amazing. She's done, I think, 230 for My Lady Jane. at this point.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
her edits have received over, between TikTok and Instagram, because she cross posts, over 300 million views. Like, it's insane.
Wow.
Now, their own Instagram page, the content they made was actually, I liked it. It was quite lovely.
Yeah, it was lovely.
But but the problem is, again, just a general, like, we don't know what to do. Like, with a lot of it, like, did anyone talk about the fact that Dominique Cooper is a major player in the show?
That was
Like,
another.
if you're in the UK, I'm not British, so it doesn't mean as much to me. But, like, Rob Brydon is a huge name in the UK.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
We love Rob Brydon. We adore
he's
Dominic
wonderful.
Cooper. And he's topless.
He's topless
We
ass
got
out.
to see his whole ass.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know,
and it was
right?
a nice one.
It's a nice ass.
Where's that?
He is aging like fine wine. So
Yeah, he really is.
you got all those things, and like there's just like a lot of aspects of it that are just like, why weren't these talked about? But they just like didn't know what to do about the fact that there's not only one major romance, but there's like 4 romances. There's like potential sapphic stuff in the future. Like, there's all these things they just like weren't even talking about, plus the comedy. And it was very clear they just like didn't know what to do with it. Like, we would see little things comparing like other ships from Prime, and like they would exclude Guildford and Jane all the time, because I was like, I don't think they know what to do with them. Which is
They
just
were
funny.
to begin with. They were included to begin with, and then they cancelled the show, and any and all promotion stopped.
Even the stuff that we know that they have, like they have this
Yeah.
beautiful photo shoot that is like our lore. It's like the queen and her consort, and they released 2 official ones, and like we know that there are hundreds, and they're like some of the best promo photos I have ever seen from anything, and they're just like, they're gonna hold on to them forever and just make us mad.
Literally, the last time they posted on their official page was in August.
The day they canceled.
Yeah.
Like, they literally canceled and then just like cut off all things.
Exactly. And then from then on, somehow they just went and pretended that it never existed. It was so outlandish. I've never seen anything like it.
It's just funny because they just aren't sure what to do with it. And then, but what Jules and I have discovered over the last couple months, when we finally decided that, F it, we're going to watch other stuff on their network, because, why not be
I
happy?
hate them, but I need
hate them,
content.
but we already subscribed. So we started watching some of the other stuff on their show, their content, and we realized that like what they were really missing is like they have all these ships of down bad lover boys, and like they just are missing the fact that like Guildford is like the 1553 down bad lover boy, like
The
so
downest bad lover boy.
yeah, I mean, so much. And it's so funny because like a lot of their other major like popular stuff are the same kind of guys, and I'm just like, you guys aren't talking about this at all. Like, it's just so funny that like Maxton Hall is compared a lot. Like, okay, you have like a a nerdy girl who like doesn't understand what boys are about, and then like the hot guy who's like like kind of swashbuckle. Like, okay, you're not going to compare those at all. Okay, it's like, and then like their new,
It's there.
it's there,
It's
and like
right there. It's there for the taking.
Their new show that you may have seen, Jules talk about just a little bit on our social media, just a little bit, like My Fault London, like is the most down bad lover boy who is in a relationship that's like kind of taboo, which is the same thing for Jane and Guildford, because she's not supposed to be married to a Ethan.
Yeah.
Like all these things, there's just all these like things that they could just be like really comparing and really bringing in people to like cross viewership, but they're just like,
and they're not doing it.
They're not doing it, but not even just for like, they don't even really do it well for the ones they like, to be honest.
Nah, that's true. I mean, we've been doing it for them though, which is fantastic, because we've been all over socials making those comparisons, drawing those parallels, and there's more buzz. Buzz that dies and goes back up. It's natural. And we had seen kind of like a dip post Christmas and in January, where everyone was just tired and nobody really wanted to talk about anything, and the world was just not in a great place.
The world
as
is
it was.
depressed. Yes.
Yeah,
Feeling
the world is
bleak.
depressed. But we've seen a phenomenal jump back up since My Fault London came out, and we started drawing those parallels, and we realized that we have this huge community that loves the same thing, and they're back talking about it, and they're like, let's draw these parallels and let's bring it back into people's minds.
Yeah.
And we love that it's happening, and we love that people that love the same things as us are coming in and watching it and going, hang on a minute, why is this cancelled? This makes no sense at all. And we're just really pissed that Prime still pretend that it doesn't exist. You don't even have to renew it. but just acknowledge that it exists.
Yeah, maybe like give us some of the promo photos.
I mean, do renew it, but acknowledge that it exists.
Please renew it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Now, since your work behind Save My Lady Jane, have you is there any hope that maybe another network might want to pick up My Lady Jane? Do you see that as a possibility at all?
So, I mean, it's not a possibility. The problem is that Amazon owns it. So like they would have to, someone else would need to buy it,
Would need to buy it from them, yeah.
Which again, if they hate it so much, then
Then sell
it.
I think it's one of those things that's very interesting because, like, you know, I don't know if you two have ever been like a fan of something that's been canceled that people are trying to get renewed. A lot of the other stuff that people are pushing for has a lot of content that they want to get created. Like Shadow and Bone is like they want like 3 seasons and 2 books or whatever. We just want the other half of this book.
Yeah,
because like
we're
the
not
other
asking for
books
much
in
at
the
all.
series, I love the authors, but like they're not related, not really.
Yeah,
like I mean,
not at all.
there's a little bit of some crossover characters, but like it's a completely different story, and I honestly I've never asked, but like I don't even think the rights to the second book is sold. Like it's just, you know, I don't know, quote me on that, but like I've never even heard anyone mention that. It's like this is the story.
Yeah.
And so the idea is just to get that second half told, because it's like we got the, you know, the happy ever after for like part of the ship, but there's also like not to see Mary get her butt kicked.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I want to see Bess
Mary
winning.
get punched in the face.
Truly.
I want to see Bess take over the throne.
In theory, the easiest thing is being like, Prime, get your act together and just do this because you own everything. You've written the scripts. My current goal, which I've told Jules, is you know, really making it into like a cult classic and making it the kind of thing that like people like really love. And
well, I think
you know,
there.
I think people really love it. I would obviously love to see a second season. If this becomes a Firefly moment and they make a movie that's not, I would not be sad because I think they could.
We won't be mad.
We wouldn't
we'll take the end
Absolutely
of the story.
Not. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they did us one favor in the way that, you know, I mean, not Prime as an entity, but the writers and the creators of the shows, that they gave it a satisfying enough conclusion to a storyline, so that you can still encourage people to go in and watch it, even though it's cancelled. Because you know, you've got stories where they end on a horrendous cliffhanger, and you're like, I don't want to go into this because I'm just going to be like, this is cancelled and I want to know what happens. Yeah. Whereas with My Lady Jane, you have that relative conclusion to some part of the story. You know, you have not a happy ever after, but you do have a happy ending.
Right.
So that really works in our favor, where you've got people that, you know, you see comments on Twitter and they're like, oh, I was going to watch this and then I saw it's cancelled, and it's like, no, you go and watch it and then you come and shout at us and tell us how much you love it.
But it's just one of those things that's like so much media, so much press. It's made, you know, at the end of the year we tracked the list. It was the only Prime show on the Variety list and the New York Times list, like individually. There's a lot of people who really love the show. It's just, it seems that there was one person, I'm guessing with some balls, who decided they didn't, and that was like the problem.
But thanks to what you guys have organized, I think that it's become even more apparent that there are more people behind this show that are willing to defend it and continue to support it in, you know, multiple ways. So, Deb, thank you again. Thank you for joining us.
Sorry that I have to keep out.
Oh, no, that's A-okay.
Okay, bye all.
Bye. It was so lovely to meet you, Deb. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Jules, thank you for staying and hanging.
No problem at all.
Like a hoot.
She's amazing. She's incredible. And I can talk with the best of them, but the information that Deb retains in her brain is fascinating. I love that for her, and it's worked wonders for us. She's just so detail oriented. It's fascinating, which is the case with the show as well, because, you know, that's one of the things that people really, really love about it, is that everything that has made its way into it is intentional. There isn't a single detail that is not needed, and there's probably thousands of details that even after 30 rewatches we still haven't clocked.
Mhm.
30 is the active. We went through a stage where it was just streaming constantly in the background.
Tell me, what would you say is your favorite kind of like hidden detail that you've picked up on that might be in the background that you might not think others have noticed as easily?
Let's see. So at the end of episode 1, when Jane intentionally passes, faints, and you've got Guilford kind of like just standing on ahead and just shaking his head, going, "I don't believe a single moment of what just happened." And then you have that drawback at the start of episode 4 where she's just been made queen, and then she faints because of the stress and the pressure and everything that's happening. And then you can see like he immediately reacts and catches her, and you can relate to that moment where he goes, I understand this woman. I know when she's pretending, and I know when she's genuinely distressed and needs my presence. And they're not anything, but they're not actively in this marriage at that point. They're just there for each other from the moment they commit to helping each other. So I love that. There is a moment in episode 7 when little Robin, who plays Margaret Gray, has just been scolded by her mother, and then she runs away crying, and the narrator talks about how the voices in your head are the ones that you believe in. And we've shared this as trivia. That was a really important message for the writers to put across, who both have children of their own. And that's something that's really resonated with me as a parent, because you can tell kids whatever you want to tell them, but the more you repeat it to them, the more they will believe it. So there's those really tiny but very hugely important messages throughout that are woven in, that makes you think that it's not just a romance, it's not just a comedy, it's a really intentional piece of media that transcends today, and it will carry meaning throughout for years to come. And we don't want it to end with what it has, because they still have more story to tell.
I love that tidbit you just brought up, because one of the things we talk about is how they evolve, how you get from episode 1 through episode 4. There's been you kind of get a moment where they kind of both lose themselves after the fight in the woods, and they come together, and right, they have this moment, and then Jane's like, "This is madness, we can't go on," right? And then after that they go back to frenemies, I guess. I love the growth from episode 1, like you said, where he's just looking at her like, what is she about? What's going on here? And by the end of episode 4, they're so in tune with each other, and they just won't let themselves get there. That one scene where she falls, he catches her, it has some great symbolism on him just being in tune with her feelings, him being there for her while she's distressed, especially because she's so adamant about being independent and not having to rely on anyone. And here, almost unintentionally, she has to rely on Guilford being able to catch her from her fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The character development is so intentional and so beautifully done, and every relationship is explored in the exact depth that is required, and you relate to every single character. I mean, I can sit here and talk about Jane and Guilford for 7 hours at least, but my favorite character development is Stan Dudley.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Somebody.
I love Stan.
I love Stan, and he has such a wholesome arc, because we meet Stan just being a pompous douchebag, completely full of shit.
Jag.
And then he goes all the way to literally sacrificing just his position, his life for his brother. And also even in the physical appearance, right? Because when we meet Stan, he's in like the pink parachute pants and tights with the thigh-high boots, right? Ridiculous.
He looks so ridiculous.
He does the little walk run over to to Lady Francis. Yeah, it's the best. I mean, even Stan, as he, I guess, part of his like character development, in addition to his look evolving, which is obviously very important, like you get, I think there are like milestones throughout the show where you notice like, okay, at the beginning he sucks, pompous, rich. He's like, but can I have my bun if I have to go find the will? Like that. And then like, you get to this point, I think like it's either later in that same episode or at the beginning of the following episode, he doesn't find the will. He goes and talks to Lady Francis, and then it kind of dawns on him like, oh fuck, if Mary becomes queen, like my brother is shit out of luck. Like this person that I haven't even demonstrated tons of closeness with, but like, oh no, like that's really, now I'm worried because it's affecting a person that I care about, and that grows for the rest of the series. And he's a super duper funny character, like, but that kind of like tenderness is really important. I think even like Lord Dudley exhibits a bit of that, where he's just kind of like
towards the end,
very cunning, very conniving. I'm just getting my son to marry someone with proximity to the king, and then later on it's kind of like the same, like, oh fuck, this is going to have this like stone dropping into this puddle is going to have such bigger ramifications, and now I want to save my son. Now I like, however much I may resent my son for like the kind of like explained vaguely fate of like his mother when Guilford became an Ethian for the first time, and then like that evolution to like, no, we have to help, we have to break him out, we have to save him, like that's huge. And these kind of like, there's a lot to be, I think, looked at with like family bonds, and how much like the Grey sisters bond with each other because of their mother's their antagonist, right? The Dudleys band together after their family bonds are like heavily threatened by outside forces, after their, you know, one of them is imprisoned, and Stan needs to kind of like get his like morality up to be able to help like Lord Dudley, and also to help Guilford not just mock him for being a horse sometimes. Like
Tally ho.
Even the part where he's like, oh, how's the wedding night? Oh my god,
what an asshole.
I was screaming. That was so funny.
But, and so to go from that, and you're right, Jules, I hadn't thought about Stan's character development until you brought it up, but it is amazing, okay? Because we go from, like you said, Lord Dudley has to go up to him and literally be like, yo, can you please find this will, because this is what might happen to my family. And he's like, he can't be bothered because he's snacking.
He's like,
and then
get off your ass and go
get off your ass. Exactly. And we get all the way to episode 8 where he's telling his dad, like, get off your ass, we have to save Guilford. And he tells, I'm going to save Guilford. I'm going to save him no matter what. This is what I'm going to do. So you know, and by the end of episode 8, he's like completely disheveled, dirty clothes, you know, they're hiding in the woods, really humbled down. And then at that moment, he's like, I'm going to take action for my brother, when he couldn't even be bothered at the beginning of the series.
Also, speaking of Game of Thrones, I'm pretty sure he's starring in a new Game of Thrones spinoff.
He is.
Yes.
Very Targaryen energy.
Yeah, the Targaryen vibe is strong in that one.
They are. Yes. They are strong.
We love the fact that everybody does this. You watch something and you go, oh, I like this character. Let's go and consume everything they've been in. I did it mostly recently. I watched My Fourth London and I went, oh, Matthew Broome. And then I watched the Buccaneers. And that's just part of fandom life. That's what you do. So we're going to have this where people are going to watch Knights of the Seven Kingdoms. They're going to love Henry Ashton because he's fantastic. And they're going to be like, okay, what else has he been in? And they will come and watch us. My Lady Jane.
Absolutely.
You then have Emily Henry, who is, I mean, she's big in the UK, but I hadn't heard of her until Emily Bader got cast as Poppy. But obviously that is going to be such a huge adaptation for Netflix. And we know Emily Bader and we know Tom Blythe, and we know that that's going to be an incredible, incredible adaptation, and people are going to love it. And people are going to be like, okay, Emily Bader.
What else?
She's a queen. What else?
Yeah.
And then you're going to find My Lady Jane, which she was amazing.
And they're going to find My Lady Jane. Exactly. She absolutely rocked that. And so people are going to come in and they're going to watch that. And that's what we've been trying to, you know, we have our weekly emails and we've we send it to different streamers, but at the moment we're back on Prime, and we keep trying to kind of like get that point across that people are going to watch your show. Just give it another chance, because people are seated and they will continue to be seated. And you have at least 115,000 people that have signed a petition, and that's, you know, not covering anybody else who's watched it and hasn't bothered to sign a petition.
I mean, I'm just thinking how, like, this is something that we mention often on the pod. This is has become a bit of an inside joke, but Paola's a big fan of Nicholas Galitzine, and he was on
our other tall blonde boyfriend,
obviously, and
yeah,
he was on, and I'm like the other tall blonde,
along with Tom Blythe.
I'm a personal Tom Blythe girl. I was changed after the Hunger Games, so
and now we're adding a Henry Ashton.
Yeah,
we got Tom. Yeah,
I know, my
husband keeps going.
Yeah, my husband really made fun of me for that. Like, he heard Paula and I recording, and I said something about like, oh, you know, well, I don't know if Guilford's really my guy. Like, I think it's probably more Stan. And my husband was like,
yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, exactly, because he's tall, slim, and blonde. But so Nicholas Galitzine in a Netflix property, like obviously he was in Purple Hearts, and everything he's been in since then has been an Amazon Prime property. And every single time that he is in a more prominent Amazon Prime thing, Netflix just does this like sad ex-girlfriend post situation where they're like,
Purple Hearts?
Yes, where they'll post something about Purple Hearts and be like, OMG, like at Nicholas Galitzine, and everybody comments and is like, stop being so thirsty, like this is embarrassing.
Do you remember when? That's gonna be Prime. I swear, that's gonna be Prime. When People You Meet on Vacation comes out, when Night of the Seven Kingdoms comes out, Prime's gonna be like, remember My Lady Jane? Here's My Lady Jane, please.
Yeah.
Remember?
Please watch.
Remember that time? Like, no. Renew the show for a second season.
Yeah.
Then you've got Edward Blumenau is going to be in an adaptation with Helena Bonham Carter. It is an Agatha Christie they're doing.
Love that.
Yeah, and honestly though, even like if I just Googled Edward Blumenau and we get, you know, the little filmography on Google and TV shows, it says My Lady Jane since 2024. It doesn't say 2024-2024. It doesn't say only 2024. It just says since.
Yeah. Yes.
Even IMDb is not giving up on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is good for us.
Yeah, like 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like there are like Oscar-winning movies that have had less, I think, like good critical reception on IMDb or like on Rotten Tomatoes. Like I don't know. I think this one was definitely this is like the short of it, like the most anticlimactic thing I could say. I think this one was a fumble by Amazon Prime. I think them letting this one go.
Yeah. They just fumbled it. They completely fumbled it.
Yeah.
It was so mind blowing, but they've been so hugely disrespectful to it since they cancelled it, which can give me a segue into that Trailblazer that we want to complain about.
Please.
They did this event. I want to say it was maybe October or November when it came out, which was women in front of and behind the camera, and they held this in London. They had people from all over. They had Priyanka Chopra in there. They had pretty much every woman that had been featured in anything recently, whether they were a writer or a director or an actor or an actress. And our showrunners, Gemma Burgess and Meredith Glynn, had been invited to this and then uninvited.
No.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Have they made any comments
how,
about that?
Okay, but how does one get uninvited to an event or from an event like that?
We don't know. We just know that they were initially that they were supposed to be featuring in this, and then they were told, no, you're not, because they went down some incredibly bizarre notion of just pretending that the show never existed and it was never something that they've done, and they've just gone on to a Berry campaign, and I cannot possibly get my head around it. But yeah, that was so just not even disrespectful, insulting at this point.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Who does that?
And they never made any comment about it, Gemma or nothing.
No, they're not really supposed to talk.
They're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, they're not supposed to talk about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. I have no words to express how ridiculous and disrespectful that was towards them. Because whether you want to renew the show, whether you want to, keep making more of it, respect what has been given. And when you're talking about women in the industry and then trying to pretend that a show written by women for women with the female gaze in mind and has been invited and then uninvited, we have no words. I mean, we have a lot of words, but they're not suitable for anyone's ears.
They're suitable for Sisters podcast. No worries.
Don't worry. The only reason we have an E rating is because of me. So, but
tell us, how you feel about the progress of hashtag Save My Lady Jane, and how do you feel about where you guys are at right now as a movement, and how we can continue to elevate hashtag Save My Lady Jane.
I mean, when we first started, we were everywhere. It was, we were very successful in the fact that we had a ton of media that was written about us. Every news outlet out there pretty much wrote something or other at that point in support of the campaign. Obviously, that media hype has died down, and that was always bound to happen. Where we are now is people are still making daily posts. We're still kind of like commenting on social media posts with the hashtag. As Deb said, we've tried to go down the route of establishing My Lady Jane as a cult classic, so that it's something that is loved and respected, and people still talk about it. We still send weekly emails. We update our website weekly with a template, and we ask people to send it out. We've also kind of gone down a slightly, potentially maybe not a conventional route, but we used to have a GoFundMe page, which was purely for raising funds for the campaign, and we've done some amazing stuff with it. We sent Amazon in the UK a 1,000 tiny horses. That I had great fun, and my kids loved packing that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we did that, and then we also send the Amazon MGM studios in Culver City in California. We send them a singing horse telegram. That was hilarious.
Oh, wow.
So we carried on with the GoFundMe, thinking that we could, whether we could do billboards or something else that would draw attention. But actually, we've gone down a slightly different route. So instead of asking people to donate to our campaign, we are supporting the rebuilding of the Palisades Library in LA after the fires.
That's very
and
kind.
We've also, it's semi-selfish because it keeps our name in people's minds, but it also does something that we care about very deeply, and we know that Jane Grey would care, and our writers care about, and it's an adaptation from a book, so it's very close to a lot of our hearts.
That's the selfishness we endorse, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And in that same vein, we also partnered up with the Save Shadow and Bone campaign and Save Lockwood as well, Save Lockwood and Co. And we're doing a book drive campaign. So we're asking anyone who wants to call up their local libraries or youth centers and donate children's books, so that we can get kids to fall in love with reading again. We're a group of book-loving people, and we want everyone to be a book-loving person, because loving books opens you to a world of possibilities, and none of us would be here if it wasn't for fictional stories. So that's why we partnered up with other campaigns to try and get more books available, and at the same time it keeps people talking and using our hashtags.
I honestly can't think of any better way to honor My Lady Jane, a reader and an educator. I couldn't think of any better way to honor that than in the way that you guys are using your platform.
Yeah, and libraries, something that's unfortunately under assault in this country, so we're really killing it. But that's a rant that we can have on a different day.
A different rant.
Yeah, that's not what I need to give you today.
So thank you guys for putting in that work, and just continue to push it out there and give it an exposure.
And we hope that, like, our platform is really small, but we hope that if it's 10 more people that sign your petition, then that's 10 that wouldn't have known about it before, or 10 people that make donations. And you don't know
who those 10 will be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be, it could be 10 people that go and watch the show, and then they could have 1,000 people, 3,000 people, 100,000 people that follow them, and they can say one good word about it that will then snowball into other people watching it. And that's all we can hope for, is that, we don't have information on viewership because Prime doesn't share it. But all we can hope for, and we see it every day on social media platforms, is that people are still watching it. People are still coming in, talking about it, and keep bringing in new viewership. We worked with, we still do, with some of the girls that were in the Save Sanditon campaign.
Yes! We're Sanditon girls. Very cool.
We are Sanditon girls. And we did see Sanditon come back after a couple of years off air.
2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what feedback have you gotten from them?
So that's what kind of, we went in really optimistic at the start, and especially seeing the huge snowball of the numbers that were going up on our petition, seeing all the media that was supportive of us. We're like, any day now, they're gonna change their minds. This is in the bag, guys. We've got this. And we were very young and naive back in August.
Oh man.
But what we have learned from Sanditon is that so long as you keep that conversation going, it's never over. Things take time, decisions need to be made, the right people need to sign, and especially if it is true that there's one or two people that are the kind of the bottleneck that are keeping it not going ahead. Well, people change jobs all the time. Anything can happen.
Right.
And
very true.
If those people are no longer there in a year's time, maybe whoever is there is going to pay attention to the fact that we're still talking about it, and we still want it, and we still love it, and people are still coming to watch it, and they're going to sit down and go, actually, let's give it another try.
Let's do it.
Or maybe somebody would go into a different platform or a different network, and they would go, well, those guys on Twitter are still banging on about it. Should we give it a go?
That's right.
We've had a notable moment back in September, which I was sat on a beach in Turkey, and Rob Brydon posted a picture of him and Emily and talked about the cancellation. And we were like, oh, that's awesome. Henry Ashton shared our website, and that's a moment that I will never forget, because
Awesome.
3 days or 4 days after the cancellation, I was in London at the last of the of Taylor Swift's shows in London.
Nice.
So I was at the last of the Eras tour in Europe, and I was waiting for to go into the stadium, and I got a notification that he'd put the website I built, he put on his story. Yeah. My husband has a photo of me just like losing my mind. Like, dressed all in Taylor Swift garb and going, oh
my god.
So it's one of the things that we're really grateful for, and we love the show for what it is and what it's done. But what we love the most, I think, is the community that it's built. The fact that it's brought so many, I say this lovingly, nerds together.
Proud nerds here.
We've just proud nerds. We found our people, and it's been such a heartwarming thing in the midst of the heartbreak and the hard work and everything else that we've had to do. It's brought a lot of us together, and it's very incredible. So that's one thing we're really grateful for.
That's what's going to help bring this show back, is that community. Yeah. And that was started by you guys, and you should be incredibly proud.
Thank you. Yeah, we really are. And we're so grateful for everyone who's still talking about it, who's still, there with us on a daily basis, just loving it. Even if it's not using the hashtag, it's just the fact that they still love it and and we all move on to other things. We all find other things to watch. But My Lady Jane is one of those that we go back to. It's kind of become a core part of personality, where you're gonna go and have your affairs with something else, but you'll come
You're
back
always gonna come back
because and that's what we love about it. It's the joy that it brings. The world is a really messed up place right now, in more ways than one, and we all need to find joy somewhere, and My Lady Jane does that. It's a place where you can escape for a few hours.
And I mean, and something we love to talk about and bring up here is we love the escapism, but while still showcasing just dynamics in our society and within our relationships that we still deal with, that were relevant in 1553 and are still relevant in 2025. And I think that having this show and seeing the way it has been treated by Prime itself, I think still says a lot about where we stand in female-driven shows and female-driven media.
Yeah, it kind of it puts us back in our place in a way, and it's not fun. I don't enjoy being put in my place.
Listen, I'm gonna quote the show and say, "Fuck that." Yes. That's why here at Sisflix, our main goal is to deconstruct these and analyze why they work, what doesn't work, and highlight the creators that bring these visions to life, especially women and groups that are usually marginalized when it comes to the media, because the things that they put out there aren't celebrated as much as we see other things be celebrated.
Yeah. And they should be. They should be. One of the things that we love about My Lady Jane is the fact that there is no just good and evil. There's even the most hated characters have nuances to them. They have reasons for why they're like this, and that is explored. Mary, as much as I hate her, is relatable. Every single character has things that you can relate to, and they've explored aspects of personality in a way that I haven't seen in a lot of media done. It gives you a chance to understand what is being done and why it's being done. It drives back into reality, because there's no just good and there's no just bad.
Absolutely.
People have nuances.
I think that the writers definitely delivered a beautifully flawed hero and also a understandable villain. Right? That you can not forgive, but you can be like, this is why she feels that way. And I get it.
And I think, not to be a misandrist, but I think that's something that women are uniquely good at, finding the nuance of things, finding the shades, right, between two absolutes. So I think that's another element of this very female driven show that is emphasized.
It's, again, incredibly nuanced, incredibly dynamic. I mean, these are the types of characters that we can talk about here forever. And it's why our podcast
is so long.
So long. This is a 2-hour podcast about a 90-minute show.
We're an hour-long show. Yeah, we're really...
But it takes time to get into the nitty-gritty of it. And you need to. There's media that needs to be examined and looked into detail, and it's the tiny things that makes it rememberable and so uniquely incredible, and relatable.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's good that you talk about it.
Thank you. I'm gonna keep that. That's the clip. That's what we're gonna clip.
Now, Jules, I know we have you up it's 10 o'clock.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
11 o'clock by you.
It's not an issue at all.
Do you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to share with our audience on, say, My Lady Jane?
What I would say is, if you haven't watched My Lady Jane, then what are you doing with your lives? Go ahead and watch it. It's on Amazon Prime still. You do have to work for it, but it's there. And then come and find us on Instagram at Say My Lady Jane, and on Twitter at Say My Lady Jane, and on saymyladyjane.com, and just come and talk to us, because we love to hear from anyone and everyone who shares our obsessions, and they're deep, and we have many.
Yeah, we get that. We're right there with you.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the email templates are still effective? Is that a route that you still want people to take? Where would you say the most focus should be at to be able to push the show?
I think the emails are probably still one of the most effective things we can do. And we do them every week. We do them on Wednesdays. Templates don't necessarily change every Wednesday, but we remind people to send them. And when they do change, they change on Wednesdays.
Gotcha.
We choose a different streamer to target. We kind of alternate. We go Apple, Netflix, Paramount. I can keep listing.
Yeah.
We've tried them all.
Oh, awesome.
But they are a direct way to reach the right people. Using the hashtag on social media is amazing for maintaining momentum. But we know that the people who see our messages on social media have ultimately no say in what happens. They can get the message across to the higher ups, but they're ultimately just they're social media people. They don't have any decision making.
Right.
But the emails go directly into the inboxes of people that can do something about it. So that is our most direct route of reaching the right people. So yes, I would say if you would do one thing, it's sign the petition and send an email. And if you just send the one email, that's still one more than we had before.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys.
We sometimes email Jeff Bezos. We enjoy that.
Let's go.
It sings to me. Beautiful music to my ears.
It's like, this week we're going to bother Jeff.
Incredible.
Just spam the email.
I'll do that every minute of every day if I could.
Yeah.
Just listen, all you have to do is schedule it.
Can
Send that
definitely
shit every
schedule it.
Wednesday, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We can give a more basic template. They tend to change with something that's happened. We will draw attention to something that is current. But even if it's just like, hey, save my Lady Jane.
Yeah.
And
just send it. That's more than enough.
Yeah.
If you're so inclined. So
awesome.
Please, and
all
thank
right,
you.
Guys.
Love that.
That's what we're gonna do. Let's put our collective power to some good use here. Right?
Yes, please. And donate some books.
Donate some books.
Donate some books. Oh yes. The library that you guys are supporting at Palisades, right?
The Palisades branch of the LA Library that unfortunately is no longer. So they have a rebuilding fund, which is if you go on our GoFundMe, we can give you all the links.
Amazing.
If you're going to put them in, but we have a GoFundMe that goes directly to the Palisades, so we don't get any of that money. It's all linked through, and it just goes directly to them. And every little will help them ultimately in their efforts.
So we will definitely make sure to put those links in our show notes so you guys can find those resources. Donate some books to your own local libraries as well. I think that right now is a time where we should all be supporting our local libraries and independent bookstores. And, if there's something we talk about here is the importance of books and media, especially for stories like these, for stories like My Lady Jane, that talks about a queen that often goes unnoticed or that is not often talked about. So important to support those stories.
Yeah. So thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm like, come back anytime as if this is a radio show, but like join us.
Just give me a call.
Yeah, right? Like join us anytime. If and when hopefully we discuss any of our shared lore, we would love to have you back on and like chat. This has been really lovely, and we really appreciate both you and Deb for giving us your time.
Thank you so much. No, I'd love to come back. I've had a great time. Thanks, guys.
All right, friends, you just heard everything that you can do to help save My Lady Jane campaign. Donate some books, terrorize Jeff Bezos. That's a thing that you can do. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for following along with us on this My Lady Jane journey. My Lady Journey. Find us anywhere on social media at Sisflix Podcast, on Instagram, on Letterboxd, on Patreon. If you want to join, if you want to subscribe, get a little delicious bonus content from your two favorite podcasting sisters, and leave a review anywhere you get your podcasts. We love to see them. They help other people find us. And that's it. Thanks, everyone. Bye.